Okay, so today I want to talk about evaluating functions. So evaluating just means figuring out what the output is if you know what the input is. So if we want to think about that in terms of a graph, the input is our x and the output is our y. So we're taking a given x value, so let's say x equals 2. Let's say that's our input. So we go over to 2 and then we figure out what the output is. Well, the output is the y value on the graph. So we would go up and see what our output is. So in this case, I'm going to count here 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this case, when the input is 2, the output is 4. And we would write that in as an ordered pair like this, 2, 4. So the input is the first member of the ordered pair. The output is the second member of the ordered pair. So our input is 2 in this case, and our output is 4. So that's what it looks like on the graph. But when you just look at the function, what it looks like is plugging in a number for x. So x is our input, right? So in this case, we said x is going to equal 2. So we would say f of 2 instead of f of x. We're going to plug in 2 for x, or replace x by 2. So in the right-hand side of the equation, wherever I see an x, I'm going to write a 2 instead. So I'll do 1/2 times, this is x, this is times x, right? We don't have to write the multiplication in here, but it's 1/2 times x. So I'm going to use parentheses to indicate multiplication. So 1/2 times 2 plus 3. So 1/2 times 2 is 1, right? So this is just 1 plus 3 is 4, which incidentally is the same output that we got when we checked the graph, so that's good. So evaluating functions is just when we take a number, we plug it in for x, and then we solve the function to see what the output is equal to. So let's go ahead and try another function. This time we're going to try a function that's a little bit more complicated with some x squareds in it, or a quadratic function. So if we have f of x equals 3x squared minus 6x plus 1, and we want to evaluate when x equals -1. So this means that wherever I see an x, I want to plug in a -1. So I have 3 times -1 squared. Now be careful because it's x is getting squared. So whatever x is, I have to multiply it by itself before I do anything else. So minus 6 times -1 plus 1. So wherever I saw an x, I replaced it with a -1. So here's an x, replaced it with -1. Here's another x, and I replaced it with -1. So then when I solve this, remember that you need to do exponents first. So -1 squared is just 1 times 3. And then we have a -6 here times a -1. So that's just going to be a positive 6. So we can change that to plus 6 plus 1. So we have 3 plus 6 plus 1 is 10. So when the input is -1, the output is 10. So if you looked on the graph of this function, this ordered pair, -1, 10, would be on the graph. Okay, so let's try another function. This time I want to try a cubic function. So a cubic function is a function that has x cubed in it. And let me just erase this real quick. So we are going to try f of x equals 3x cubed minus 2x squared plus x minus 5. Okay, and we're going to evaluate when x equals 2. So we're going to put in f of 2 And then wherever I see an x, I'm going to write a 2 instead. So 3 times 2 cubed minus 2 times 2 squared plus 2 minus 5. All right, so we have 2 to the third is 8. So we have 3 times 8. Remember that we need to do exponents first. Do not multiply the 3 times the 2 first. You will get the wrong answer. You have to remember that order of operations. So 2 times 2 is, or 2 squared is 4. So we're going to have 2 times 4 plus 2 minus 5. So we have 24 minus 8 plus 2 minus 5. So 24 minus 8 is 16 plus 2 minus 5. So 16 plus 2 is 18, minus 5 is 13. So 13 is the answer when we evaluate those. And then on this graph, if you were to graph this, the ordered pair 2, 13 would appear on your graph. That's it.